Hello again, my friends. Once more, welcome back to the cellar. Welcome back to Leopard Street. Welcome back to The Turntable Lives. And it works. Minor issues. Concept working. Fettling, still need it a little bit. This mess is driving it. In this one, you have a little look at what I've done to this since the last one. Then we're going to play trains for a little bit. And we're going to derail some because ham-fisted paws. This is Leopard Street. Stick around. Right, well, here we are. Now, after the last video, I spent a little bit more time. I've done a little bit more work on this. What I've set up, yes, you should be able to see it. I've now added a green LED, and I've set up the code to handle positions. Now, I'm not going to go through the code in this one. There's going to be this video and probably another one. The final one is going to be an overview. I'm going to go through the whole circuit. I'm going to go through how I've set it up, how I built it, without all the step-by-step blunders along the way. So that's coming. So at the end of all of this, there'll be one reference video. But this now knows the position of all of these bits of track. One slight interesting point. This is not quite a straight run through. So I'm always using this track as the reference point. What I'm going to do at some point, I'll either lift this and move it, or I'll just accept the fact that you're never supposed to drive on it, so I'm not that bothered. It's more cosmetic. So we're going to watch this, and what we're going to do, I have here Cheshire. This is not yet powered up. I'm going to come to that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move it from this road to this road. So the first thing I need to do is move the table. So I come back, and you can't see this, but I'm just entering a number into MQTT Explorer. One of the things I need to do is sort out a slightly better way of doing this. So she's in position 8. So if I send that, the table is now going to turn. What I've done is I've done myself a little reference sheet. It sits that way because it sits on the desk. And this road is road number 8. So we're going to rotate until we hit road number 8. And we're going to stop. And as I say, it's all not powered down yet. So what I'm going to do is I will push Cheshire onto the table. She's lined up. That, I turn that way, is road number 3. So I'm going to put her on road number 3. So I come over here, I go ding, ding, send a 3. And literally all I'm doing is sending a single character. The way the code's set up, I can send 26 uppercase, 26 lowercase, I can send symbols, and I can send numbers. There we go, we've lined up on there. So we now go backwards. I've chosen Cheshire for this because she's the easiest loco I've got to push. So there we are. I'm not having to do any alignment work. This is the key bit. So I'll tell the table to turn itself all the way around. So this is the way I've got it. Position 0 is over here. This is where the calibration sensor is. You can see that white light flashing. Doesn't go to a track over here, but that's position 0, position 1. Position 1 is of no use, well, neither 0. This is position 2, and it's this end that matters. So this is currently in position 3. So position 2, position 3, position 4, and there's a 5 over here, which coincidentally is this end of the table here. So I've got 6, which is that end here, 7, which is that end here, 8, which is that end, and then 9, which is the other one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the table around 180, just because I can. So we're going to do that. And you'll notice there's a green light on. Now, it's just gone out. This will be the control for the polarity reversing relay. That's what I'm going to come on to. So we're going to spin this round here. And each of these positions, I've set up a little array, 10 positions, and each position has got 2 numbers associated with it. One is the relative position around here, between 0 and 6399. So I've got that many locations. I'll bring the locomotive back on. She comes on here. And what I'm going to do now is turn her so that the reverse is facing that way. So what I need to do is put her ready to onto the departure track. Is position 7. Now there's one thing you will note here. The table only ever turns one way. I'm going to experiment with turning both ways. But by only turning one way, I only ever have to worry about the position from one direction. It's a stepper motor. It should be able to cope with it either way round. But I've not got the code set up yet. But this is going to align with the exit road. I'm just going to back her off onto the exit road. But this little relay position here, so we should be able to do this nice and smoothly. This little green light, if I move the locomotive out of the way, you'll be able to see it. This being on or off is dictated by the stored positions. So basically, each of these 4 tracks has got 2 possible options. One for this end of the table, one for this end of the table. And if you're wondering, but how do you know which one is which? This is the key bit. It doesn't matter. I've got this marked up at the minute. You don't need to. That could be position 6. It could be position 7. Doesn't matter. You can just drive a train on, or you will be able to once I've powered it up. Drive a train on. I think, right, I need it to be in a different position. And you're more or less going to have to guess, to be honest with you. I may end up sticking a figure or something on one end here when I put the handrails on, so you can tell the ends apart. And worst case, you had to say, position 6. Locomotive is facing the wrong way. All right, position 7, and it'll do 180 again. So the next thing I've got to do is build the relay circuits. Now, as I've said before, I want 2. I've got space to put 2 on here, I think. If I haven't, I'm going to have to move a few bits, but it should be all right. This is this is going to end up on strip board, but for now it's staying on here because as long as it works, I'm happy. So I'm going to build that. It's a standard circuit, and we're going to be back in a minute. So catch you in a moment when I've got that set up. Okay, so relay circuit. Now, draw this in 2 parts. Done these before. There's a video on this somewhere. We have a relay as a coil. The ones I'm using are like this. And over here you have a common connector, and I believe I've got this the right way around. They look like this. And you have normally closed on both sides, common, normally open. Different relays are wired differently, so check. Right, I've got 5-volt coils. I'm very naughty. I'm driving on 3.3 volts at the moment. I need to change that and drive to 5. So that is plus V. And we're going to trigger this, and it's, as usual, triggered via a transistor. Goes down to ground. Well, there like so. And that has a little current limiting resistor, and that is in. It's ground. This can connect to the microcontroller. Microcontrollers can't drive relays directly. If this was a switch, you just put a switch in. And then on here, you want a flyback diode. So when this switches off, the current stored in the coil, which is an inductor, has somewhere to discharge. It's fairly straightforward. What I'm also doing, normally you would put an LED up here. I've actually got an LED here. And I'm trying to think which way around it goes. It goes down here like this. And that's an LED showing when it's on. I could put it up here. The reason I put it down here is just space on the board I've got. So that's the relay driver circuit. So I've got 2 of those. And the way they're hooked up, I'll just come back over here to the... I'm not going to bother drawing the driver now. I'm just going to draw the little circuit. So I have the common. And what I have there is DCC in. That's the first one. And then I have my normally open outputs here. So new. So that is my power relay. This, I put a signal in, click, I now have power going out. And that has been given a blue LED. At the moment, I've used different colors so I can see what I'm doing. This comes out, and this feeds into a second relay, which is over here, onto its common terminals. And this one has all four hooked up. And what I've got is that connects to there, that connects to there. So normally connects to these. If this relay energizes, it connects over here, which reverses what we get. Sorry, I've got that the wrong way around. Scrap those out. This comes in to here on one of these terminals, and these come out over here to turntable deck. Effectively, it's a reversing controller, and that has got a green LED, which all looks rather nice. So I've built those. The breadboard is getting a tad crowded. There's a lot of DuPont wires on it, but it's cooked up. So let's go to the layout and let's go see if it works, shall we? That'll be fun, won't it, children? And so here we are out to the layout. This is the board I now have. You'll see what I mean about it. It's a mess. Green LED, which is the direction. Blue LED, which is power on. That isn't lit up at the moment because the turntable deck is not powered. White LED over here, which is still the sensor. I've made another change. I found I'm still getting a little bit of flicker on the hall sensor. So I've swapped out the what was a 1 microfarad capacitor, went to a 4.7 microfarad capacitor. It's now a 10 microfarad capacitor. I still get a little bit, so the 10k charge resistor, I haven't upgraded it yet. I'm going to try that as a 47k. The key point is this thing, it goes through the sensor point, and it's not, blip, it goes in, goes on, holds for a bit, off. As long as I catch that in a reliable way, it doesn't matter if I'm at the beginning or I'm halfway through it. So I'm going to play with that. For the moment, it's working. So what I'm going to do first off, notice here we have Cheshire. I am going to rotate this table. If I put you back a bit further, let's see a little bit more what's going on here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate the table, and I'm going to drive Cheshire onto it. So this is where we find out how good the alignment is. So let me just have a little look. I need to tell this table, first thing I need to do is tell the table to calibrate, because I can't do anything until it's done that. So that is switched on. And it's turned its power on, and for some reason it's not moved to calibrate. So I need to put it back in standby mode again. Tell it to calibrate again. There we go. This is what I mean about the flickering sometimes. It just picks up and it doesn't quite work. So I need to make that a little bit firmer. I also need to make a controller. You can't actually drive these things particularly easily from within Panel Pro. There's no turntable module in there. So there we are. That's come on. That's brought its little light at the back. The blue light is when it calibrates, the software is set, turn the power on. When it powers up, there's no power. This is what I said about if the layout resets when a train's half on it, the turntable will stay dead. When I power the track up, the train will probably still be able to drive off unless it's got no conductive wheels, but we shall see. So I now need to move that to a position, which means I need to work out what the position is. And to that end, I have made myself a little diagram. So to get the train on, I need it to be in position 4, which will put that little blue dot of blue tack, I hope, next to over here. It's also turned the green light on, because to get the correct polarity with this is over here, the crossover relay needs to be energized. So that's going to come around here. We're going to see how good this is. That looks pretty good. I'm going to drive the train on. So here we go. I'm going to fire up a throttle. I'm going to avoid kicking things on the floor. Potentially, I hope. Let's have a little look. So switch on throttle. I'll select Cheshire. And off we go. She's going to come on, hopefully, reasonably well. And as you see, she drives on quite nicely. Now, I'm not going to go anywhere near there. What I'm now going to do is put her onto my little storage track. So I can set this here to track 8. So we do that. Table turns and lines up without me having to do anything. Go into reverse and off we come. And full disclosure here, she has actually derailed slightly, only very slightly. So put her back on. If I hold that over there, you may be able to see they're not perfectly lined up. I've still got a little bit of fine tuning to do, but it's about there. There's a little gap. Now, a couple of comments I've had on the last video. Kelly's noted these wheels don't always turn. That one, for example, isn't touching anything. That one is. That one is. That one is. Excuse me, I'm trying to remember to edit that out. The deck isn't completely flat. Essentially, this table isn't completely flat. It's slightly distorted. I don't think the motor is sat on it 100% flat either, but there we go. Now, what I'm now going to do, I'm going to bring her on. I'm going to drive her onto the siding at the back. Again, just because I can, really, and this is just a little bit of a test. So I'm going to bring her on, so back into forwards. And off we go. And crawl forward a little more. There we go. So you saw the wobble there as she came on. That's where the wheels aren't quite lined up. A little bit of fine tuning. Like I say, this thing flickering, it's not quite 100% when it's spot on. So that bit at the end, if I want to reverse her onto the road behind the signal, is position number 3. So I go onto that, position number 3. And it goes round. And round we go. And then I'm going to be able to drive her off. I'll just shift, move the signal box out of the way. I'm going to put the signal box completely out of the way for now. So I can stick her onto this road here. And one of the more useful bits I've got here, a bit of a drop there, but she goes onto it. One of the more useful bits here is I'm not having to push her. It's not lined up perfectly either. It's not far. If I just do that, I can get it sort of line up. It's not perfect. But that is that we have here a bit of fettling needed, a bit of detailing to finish. I need to finish testing this a little bit more. Then this needs to become a proper circuit board so it doesn't sit here apart from anything else. Yeah. One thing I've taken out, I've removed the little switches that used to live down here. If you remember my previous video some time ago, I built this little control panel and with 2 switches. I've taken it out. I don't need them. I'm not going to be sitting over here driving this thing manually. At the moment, I use MQTT Explorer and just send it some codes. But we're going to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Cheshire back onto this stabling road. And then we're going to set up and we're going to do a little bit of train servicing. And I'm going to bring the Scotsman in. I'm just going to put Cheshire back on the rail because that back driving wheel isn't on fully. And then we're going to turn around and get her ready to go out as a proper bit of train servicing. Let's see if I can make that work. Looks like that. Yeah. And the road number I need now is number 9. The road numbers are paired. So now the relay's switched off and the green light's gone off because this is the opposite way around to where it was before. So she's going to come there. I'm going to have a little look. The rails look decent. I'm going to drive Cheshire forward. And there we are. She's now on this road. So I'm going to set the trains up. And we're going to do a little bit of servicing just as a little test. So, yay. On with that in a sec. So, we have in what will eventually be Platform 3, the Scotsman and her rake of coaches. And she's pointing the wrong way and the coaches are in the way. So, we need to do something about that. Ah, yes. That's who can deal with that. So, bring my little friend here back. He's going to come back out quite nicely. There is still a little bit of manual intervention going to happen here. The only manual intervention is going to be coupling and uncoupling. So I'm going to bring Bucky in. I'm going to drop her on the back of these. And she's going to grab the coaches, get them out of the way, and then Scotty is going to go and have a little bit of a turnaround and get ready. That's better. So I'm just having fun checking I've got the points right. In we come. She's currently under where the phone is. There we go. This is where we see how well I can couple up without crashing. Now the usual is come in slowly, stop, and then just edge up. So that's what we're going to try and do. Stop, stop, crunch. A little bit of pushing, but what that should mean is the couplings at this end, and it does, are compressed, so I can slide my little piece of plastic under. Which I had rather hoped would work as an uncoupler. Apparently not. Perhaps if I bend the other end a little bit, let's see how this works. Yeah, this is eventually going to be slightly more complicated than this, but right, that should work. Just a bit of plastic jammed underneath. So, away we go. Don't uncouple her out. So she's got to get out of the way now. And in fact, back into this road here. This is a little bit more towards how the station is actually going to work. Have it a bit of coal as she goes past. Now I can't do a full run in this one because the rest of the layout's still not set up. We're going to have a look in another video. I'm going to do another one on the table, which is going to be a little bit of a roundup just with the full circuit diagram, a little bit on how it's actually been set up to work. And then we're going to have a bit of an operating session. So here we come back in with the train. This is just a nice little simple bit. I've got a lot more testing to do with it, but I'm pleased with it so far. We are in fine-tuning and fettling mode at this point. It does occur to me I'm going to have to move the camera in a mo. Because, yeah, my camera stand is currently sitting in the way of Scotsman coming out. And I have a derailed coach, which isn't helping. Bucky is handling it like a dream, however. As this end bogey has come off. I'll sort that out in a sec. It's better come to a halt. Near a halt. Yeah. True to form. Yeah. What's happened is the coupler on this end end of this coach. Works quite nicely with a big decoupler, but isn't a big fan of better couplers, shall we say. Do this. Right, we now need to bring Mr. Scotsman back. There needs to be a bit of turning around, which I can do now. So where we're going to go. Back we go. So what I need to do is reset a few points. There's that slip road, that slip road, that slip road. Scotsman goes in forwards. Currently silent. She doesn't have any noise. I am pondering sound chips for these. I do rather like noisy locomotives. So she's going to come back here. And then she's going to go onto the turntable, which we'll come to in a sec. So I just want to do that. And she's going to go back in. Now the table isn't currently ready for her. So she's going to have to wait. But that's the idea. This road is long enough that probably 3 locos on there would not be terribly difficult. So, Mr. Turntable, you need to go. You are in that position. I need to find my bit of paper. Tell me what I need to tell her to do. Oh, Bucky has a little bit of a whistle and a hiss behind me. We need to go into position 4 again. Now, the table still only goes anti-clockwise. I've not experimented yet with going in both directions. To be honest, the code to make it work this way around is quite simple, and if this works, I'm quite happy to stay with it. So round we come here, and ding. So, Scotty, you're up. On you go. I've not tested this yet. Ooh, is she on a little bit too far, or is she on properly? Nah, she can cope with that. So she now needs to rotate and come out on that adjacent road. So the table is in position number 4. It needs to be in position number 7, I believe. I shall find out in a sec if it does what I want it to. So round we go. And it is a little bit jerky at times when loaded as well, which is something else I need to look at. That's probably a lubrication issue. As long as it doesn't start missing a beat, we're all right. If it does, it won't line up. So we're there. So, Scotty, you're ready to come off again. And has derailed. Never work with children or animals, they say. Put you back on there. And stop, because I've not set the rest of it up. Right. Yes. So, as you can see, I fiddle with that. There are still some slight issues. Yeah, it's just very slightly off there. There's tuning to do, as I've said. So, we shall come back here. Now she has been all set up. I need to bring Bucky out of the way. So, that. Release that. Pick up Bucky again. So, yeah, as you can see, not 100% successful, but we're getting there. This is prototyping and testing. As my little friend moves. Set to light loco in case that actually makes a difference. It might do, you never know. I think I have discovered on some of these locos have a brake button. I was like, what does that do? Sort of naively, what does a brake button do? Well, what it does is it stops her a little bit quicker. And she's creeping forward again. What's happened is I've managed to turn the sound off. Basically, I caught that when I selected brake. It's next to it. been a bit quieter because she's in light engine mode. Comes down here onto the stabling road. Get clear off. We thank you, Bucky. A job well done. So we can reset for the Scotsman. Flying Scotsman. Thingiverse. Now, this is one of the things you're going to notice with this station operation. Locomotives spend a lot of time running in reverse, and I didn't get her re-railed properly, which I suspect these tenders are a royal pain to put back on. The issue is the rearmost axle. Right. Let's see whether that'll work, or whether she's going to go. Nope. Right. Turn the power off again. Try again. Back on. No, she's not going to run. Right. I'm just going to try one other little thing here. Try Bucky again. Yeah. What this means, rather frustratingly, is I now need to reboot the layout. So I'm going to do that. I also got to restart JMRI. Yeah, so I'm going to leave that for now, because that'll take a little bit of time to sort out. But there we are, a demonstration of ham-fistedness. Right, so what have we had in this one? The control circuit is operational. That bit works. Still got a little bit of fettling to do with the code. Again, I'll go through the code in the next one when I sort of do a bit of a roundup on this. Basically, each of these positions has got a reference point set, and it's how many steps it is from the base point. And because this isn't always calibrating exactly right, because I do need to change a couple of components, these are off by 1 or 2 sometimes, which is, as you can see, it's enough to cause derailment. I mean, there's 6,400 positions this can be in. I would say that is off by maybe 2, but that's enough. Off by 1 seems to work. Off by 2, just enough to knock them off. Code 100 track would probably be a little bit more forgiving. This is code 75, and I've got fine scale wheel back-to-backs. So, but it's there. It largely works. I've got more to do. Like I say, this needs to be a proper circuit board. I need to build a little control panel for this thing, just so I can press a button. I mean, literally all I'm doing is I'm using MQTT, and I send this thing the letter C to calibrate. I send it at 0 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it goes to the appropriate position. I can turn the motors on, I can turn the motors off, and I can tell it, yeah, go back into restart. And it resets all its parameters and it turns all the power off. Basically, so I don't have to keep turning the layout on and off. A little bit more fettling, and we'll be there. As a concept, though, it's working. The slip rings are working perfectly. There was a slight issue. Very simple fix. I tested it. One rail was working, the other wasn't. If you remember, I've got a 2-pin connector underneath. Got a plug. Plugged them together. Not working. Yeah, it turns out if you've got a 2-pin connector and a 2-pin plug, it helps if you put both pins into the connector. If you only put one in and have one hanging on the side, it doesn't work very well. Who knew? Anyway, that's it for this video. Next one, I'm hoping I'll have the center section of the layout back in. I am going to do some clearing on the top. This will still be, it'll still look like this. It'll still be a mess, and it'll still be in the way. But I'm going to do a proper running session at that point. I can now turn trains without having to come down here, manually faff about with it. All I need to do is stay at that end, handle the uncoupling, and handle the driving. So we'll have a little look at that. If there's any trains you've seen I've got that you'd like to see in a running session, stick in the comments. The Chamoisier isn't operational at the moment, and neither is my J52, both of which still need attention. I've not forgotten them. That is coming up at some point. But I've got the two A1s. I've got a D49. There's an N2. There's a B12. I've got my freight trains as well, which they can come up to the station. I can turn them around and send them back out again. So yeah, I've got the G5, the Q6, the K3, J26. I even let Bucky out for a run on the main line with some wagons. I've got some more wagons as well. So yeah, other than that, likes, comments, shares, more than welcome. And I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you very much and goodbye.